Welcome to Homecoming with the Downer Brothers. This is Anthony.
And this is Anton.
And we are here for a new episode. And today, we're going in a new direction. We have our first economist, Malcolm Adams. He's an economist, entrepreneur, and educator.
This is a numbers guy, y'all.
A numbers guy. And if you guys get a chance to see this, he has an awesome T-shirt.
Y'all need to buy his T-shirt.
He's going to explain to us this T-shirt because basically it walks around telling you that he's the smartest guy in the room. Hey, Malcolm, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we like to start off with asking people, where are you from? And in your childhood, when you were growing up, can you tell us a little bit about what did you learn about real estate or business or financial literacy when you were growing up, and how did it impact your current
I was
situation?
born in Charlotte, North Carolina. My mom's from a small town where basically NASCAR was born, called Mooresville, and between her and two of my great grandfathers, I learned about entrepreneurship and real estate. My great grandfathers were both entrepreneurs, surely out of necessity because they pretty much didn't read English. So they had to leverage their skill sets. And that's kind of where I learned to monetize my skill sets and just gain more skill sets and keep monetizing them. That's why I ended up with so many businesses. Also, besides being in the military, my mom always had like another job and something entrepreneurial she was doing, whether she was cleaning apartments, she had a landscaping business. I did all the work.
Of course you did.
I was the oldest of her three sons. And it's pretty much it. It was life. Like it was an autonomous thing that just happened. And I learned about ownership because my great grandparents, they owned that plot of land that they had. My father's mother's parents had a corner property in my mom's hometown. I don't know who has it now. Probably gonna work on trying to get it.
Right.
Keep it in the family bloodline or whatnot. But that was pretty much it. My mom always made sure I had some kind of hustle going. I told the story about me taking the trash out in my community for whatever money they would give me when I was like 8 years old on another interview that I was doing. And I got a lot of feedback on that because people are like, I had somebody ask me the question, they were like, well, if you get paid to take out trash, wouldn't that likely end you up being a trash man? And I'm like, not necessarily. There's a lot of people who own, recycle stations right now, and they're cleaning up.
Right.
Pun intended. So.
So it wasn't about the labor; it was about the idea of owning a business and being able to scale that.
Yeah, and working for yourself, being able. I was one of those kids. I didn't like anybody telling me what to do.
That's almost all of us.
That sounds like when you just hit puberty. That's everybody.
No, I was like 2 years old, not hearing it. So,
right.
Yeah. She said she knew I lived in my head when I was 2 years old. So that was kind of my life. And then we found out I was on the spectrum as I got a little older because I was a lot more different than different sounds like.
What's being on the spectrum, man?
I have Asperger's syndrome.
That's
Autism.
a type of autism for our listeners.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of help with it, over the years. I've had a lot of practice. I learned to meditate. A lot of still sitting. Martial arts helped. And working, of course, and studying.
So you can overcome the things that happened in your childhood that for some others, maybe hold them back. There's a way, through all the things you just said, to be able to become functional and do what you need to do and be able to continue to dream and aspire and go towards what you want in life.
There's deaf people that sing, isn't there?
Wow.
Right.
Wow, that's a thought. Yeah. So, tell us, what is your business? As an entrepreneur, and when you said businesses, how many are you talking about?
11 now.
11 businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Are they all in the same lane and just do different things?
I have 3 that are IT based. My first company, it was a IT consulting company. I didn't really know what to do outside of what I learned at working at Geek Squad, just doing computer repairs. I did find out I was lowballing myself because I was only charging people $50, like no matter what the task was. But I outgrew that, so to speak. And then I later learned about government contracting and marketing to the government and DoD because they waste money on toilet paper.
Right.
Somebody recently got a $5 million contract for toilet paper.
Right.
Wow.
So you got a contract for IT?
Yeah, we had one. I'm working on the next one now. My contract now is with the city of Los Angeles, and my software company is a vendor for like all of California, just about.
Wow.
Dude, that sounds major. California's huge.
I'm going to tell you what I did because I don't care if anybody As a matter of fact, please do what I did.
Okay.
So
that's what we want.
I learned about different industries just through different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I started a company in each industry, not all at the same time, but sequentially, because you have to have a system to reach a goal.
Right.
Goals are only as good as the systems that you have to implement them. I mean, to meet them.
Right.
So basically, I took my first company and I said, well, I don't meet the criteria for these supplier diversity programs that like Starbucks, the NBA, and the set aside, spending that the government does on like woman-owned, LGBT-owned, and veteran-owned companies. So I was like, why don't I just make sure my company meets the criteria?
Right.
And in doing so, it lowered the competition for getting contracts because we didn't have to compete, because it's like you have basically an in pretty much because the pool is smaller. And I was like, wow, that worked. Well, let me try with this one. And I went through the same situation of like setup. So you do company setup, get the banking in order, and then you do the same registration after you get your DUNS number and all that's a part of setup. And then I find somebody to empower. And it dawned on me, something I read once.
Wait, what do you mean when you say find someone to empower?
Someone who fits that criteria that I don't. Like, I'm not a woman.
Oh, to partner with you, basically.
Yeah, I'm not LGBT and I'm not a veteran. So it has to be majority owned and controlled. So I'm giving them the majority of the company.
51%.
Exactly. And, they're winning. They're getting what they need.
Right.
And I looked at it like if I have 30 pies, I don't need the biggest piece of any pie.
Right.
So I'm working towards 30 companies.
Look, volume is one thing we've been pushing on a lot of our episodes. Too many people think they need to hit home runs.
No,
they just need to have a whole lot of hits.
I looked at it like this. If I help a million other people get everything they want, I will get everything I want inevitably.
Right.
There's no way that, say I help 10 people make $100,000 and 49% of that is mine out of each person.
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's volume.
That's volume. And that's the cash flow. That's the money.
It's simple math.
Wait, so let's rewind now. All right. So you started LLC. Then you get a business bank account. Then, in the course of doing that, you got to get an EIN number with the federal government.
DUNS number and all that. Right.
DUNS number. And then a partner that fulfills a group that can get you, they can gain you a contract you couldn't get on your own.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure, because this is a teachable moment. We want our listeners to learn something every time.
I hear that. A teachable moment.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
I live for those.
All right. So we'll just go back to the story. Yeah.
And I just kept doing it over and over, and I've done it 11 times now, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome.
I would be too.
Right. Now, people, when they're listening, they always ask us to be no fluff. So can you give us an example with some numbers of a contract that you got, and like what was the terms of it? I mean, was it a contract for 1 year, and how much money did it pay? Like how does it work?
Got a 1 year contract, $250,000, outsourced about a fifth of that in work. So I'm not doing any work, it's all delegated. Okay. And then my partners and I split the rest.
And you getting your 49%?
Well, in that company I have 2 partners and myself.
Okay, so a third.
Mm-hmm.
A third and that's one of 11 companies.
It's more like 19%.
Right.
But it's still
19% of 250,000. Get your calculators. I don't know what that is, but I'll be happy to take that as one of 11 companies.
And I would say this too. Like I was just looking. Like Jeff Bezos has 16% of his company. He's a billionaire many times over.
Right.
You know these percentages. Whether you were talking about $250,000 or a $250 million, you know, small percentages does not mean small money.
Right. When you're doing the type of volume that Malcolm's talking about, I mean, he said 11 businesses. So if you did that 11 times, and I'm sure the numbers are different depending on the contract, but still.
And time, you know, not all the businesses are as far along as a few of the other ones. Like
right.
I have 3 that are like the older ones, and they're doing way more than the newer ones are.
Right. So it's like planting trees, though. You got your trees that have matured and bearing fruit.
Yeah,
you got
so
the
I don't want
trees.
everybody to think that I have 11 companies doing $1 million.
Right.
Like that's not.
Man, but we want that though. We want that.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting from this conversation though is the way you're able to leverage time. You're able to leverage money. Mm-hmm. You know, because you can use that money to start other businesses and partnerships. Like, because, I mean, if you think about, okay, of course, we're the Downer brothers, right? And we're 2 of us are partners. So we're taking on these responsibilities and separating them and so that we can tackle different things so we can make it all work.
I just need 10 more twin brothers so I can have 11 companies with 11 partners that I trust like him.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely help if we could duplicate ourselves. But this is not a science fiction. This is the real world.
No, this is the real world, and real things are happening.
Well, you can
on this episode.
You can duplicate the system. Like that's the true thing about it is you can duplicate and automate time and time and time again, and it makes it easier to budget time because you have a system. So it's like you take this template and you just copy it.
That's real.
And then make it fit. It's just like you take a template for an agreement of some sort or anything else. You know, you can download a template for a document online, and then you just, you know, put your, you know, related information into it, like a resume template.
Right.
And use it that way.
It's real. Like, when Ray Kroc got a hold of McDonald's, he made sure no one changed the template from McDonald's to McDonald's. And he owned the real estate under it. So if any of those franchisees were trying to get out of hand, he would just say, you no longer have a lease here. Get out of my damn property.
Yeah. Speaking of real estate, to touch on that a bit, I about 6 years ago, I found out that there was just property all over the country for $1. Because for some reason, people didn't want to pay $16 in taxes a year. I don't understand that, but I'm glad.
Right. I know, I'm glad too.
I'm glad they gave me the opportunity.
How did you find out about this? Where would people find this? So just type in buy property for $1 in the city you're interested in.
$1 real estate. That's literally what I
and then a bunch of articles come up.
A bunch of websites came up.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, you know, there was still some janky ones, but the ones that actually deal with the government, like bid number4assets.com, please go there. Actually, they have stuff that the U.S. Marshals confiscate and all kind of other stuff. So you know if they're dealing with the government, it has to be legit.
Right.
I know that's right.
So
we're going to be checking it out. You said bid number 4
Man,
assets.
I'm checking that one out right
Bid
now
for
during this
assets.
episode. Hey, just go ahead and finish this episode, y'all. I'm going to go there.
The first 2 things you'll see is no dollar reserve home and no dollar reserve land, and of course, there's always like processing fees and closing costs. But you know, I ended up getting a house for $1 yesterday. I mean, $51 yesterday, because I did. I got outbid at 51. It went to 76 because it was $25 increments. But the guy who outbid me for $76 didn't have the $600 closing cost. So I got what is called a on deck buyer's offer, and they basically let me get it. Basically, I won the bid at where I bid at because the next bid up was disqualified.
So where was it? So where? I mean, what city is this in? How?
It's in Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
It's in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And where were you sitting at? Where were you located? When you were on your laptop doing this?
My office on my iMac in Oxford, Georgia.
So you're in Oxford, Georgia, bid on a property in Arkansas.
Yeah.
In Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. And before we get too deep in this, I want to get back to this closing cost. We have Anton's definition of the day.
That's right.
Anton's definition of the day. And the definition of the day just so happens to be closing costs.
Oh, yeah.
So for all our listeners out there, I want to define that for you. Now, nothing is easy when it comes to wrapping up a real estate deal. As you can hear from this guy that tried to buy a $76 property but didn't have $600 for the closing cost. Particularly for home buyers, there are about 24 specific closing costs your clients will have to pay when they complete their purchase, from application and attorney's fees to homeowners and title insurance. And it can be complicated for buyers to comprehend, especially people that think they're going to buy a property for $76 and not know that there are closing costs. So, laying them all out for them and explaining to detail the purpose behind each distinct one is very important. Closing cost calculators can help you and the client, because sometimes you might be helping other people get property in this instance, or in your instance, you just needed to know that for yourself.
I'm just playing Monopoly. I mean, they
it's our favorite game growing up, by the way. Go ahead.
It's probably one of the most important things kids should learn how to do, because that's all any of this is at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
To closing costs, they have what's called a buyer's premium, which is either $100 or 10%, which either one is greater. And then there's the $500 like processing fee to make sure you get the deed. Title company has to get a little something. You know, there a few people are getting a piece of that $500, and then, you know, for the auction site itself, you know, they have to get a small percentage too. So there's no such thing as a free lunch, and people have to understand that.
Right.
So what was the total at the end of the day?
$651
$651
for a 9,000 square foot space. The house itself is 1,174 square feet.
1,100 square foot house.
I got the whole lot.
Dude,
though.
that was a come up.
Right. So
last week I got a property for $1, so it was $501 because nobody else bid on it. I saw that it was still $1 with a few hours to go, and I was like, "Whoop."
So the Downer Brothers are definitely about to get on this website and start buying our houses. But guess what? We're gonna bring those closing costs.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of them are really good flips. You know, they're in opportunity zones, redeveloping areas.
Okay.
Like I got that land. There's an HOA fee, so you know they're gonna build more houses because there's like 6 more open lots.
Right.
So I contacted PCBS LLC and told them I want the other 5. And he said, "We'll talk about it. We have to put them on the site first because we have that agreement." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to bid on them."
Right.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's
because when they want to build the houses, they have to pay me to put the houses.
That part there.
That's part. So you know what? Let's go to our pop culture moment,
Okay.
because I think that, you know, Probably gonna have a good discussion out of this pop culture moment. So today's pop culture moment is about Gary Brackett, from Super Bowl champ to successful stacked pickles franchiser. So at 38 years old, Gary Brackett has experienced great joy and devastating loss, soon to be shared in the upcoming movie Brackett. He's a star high school football player. He had a successful college career at Rutgers University and was signed by the Indianapolis Colts in 2003. He had reached his professional goal, which would have been the happiest time of his life. However, starting in 2003, over the course of 3 years, he lost his best friend, his father, his mother, and his brother, all in separate instances. After pushing through that devastating tragedy, Brackett went on to win the Super Bowl with the Colts when they beat the Bears in 2007. While football has been his first passion, Brackett always knew he wanted to own his own business. Bet on yourself rather than others is one of his key pieces of advice. As a child, he looked forward to the change in seasons, as that meant he could make money mowing lawns, raking leaves, and shoveling snow. His father worked in the oil and gas industry, but he was a fantastic cook. In the summers, his father would grill up chicken and rib platters to sell in the community, and the young Brackett got to see firsthand the logistics of what he later learned was known as the hospitality business. The industry always intrigued him and would quickly become his second passion, leading to him owning a stacked pickle franchise. So I kind of gravitated towards this particular story because, we talked before you came on the episode about some of the adversity that you overcame, and you've already talked about being on the spectrum and overcoming that. Can you relate to what Gary Brackett went through and how he overcame that?
Absolutely. I mean, in thinking like an economist, one of the things that's always in the front of my mind is like, this world is basically built on complex relationships. Mm-hmm. So no one's ever actually in control of anything outside of themselves. What helped me in knowing that was that I didn't take the things that I was going through personal after a while. So with not taking it personal and not internalizing it and seeing it as like, oh my God, life's out to get me, I was able to think more clearly because I wasn't blinded by my emotions. I stopped responding emotionally to things. Mm-hmm. So I stopped getting in arguments. I stopped being brokenhearted when I got a no when I asked for a job or when I got let go from one. I started looking at jobs like paid training so that I can go build my own stuff.
Right.
Perspective is a big deal. And this is just a clear-cut case of somebody being able to take, let's just call them challenges, and create opportunities out of them. Like the 4 years I was homeless, every day, what he went through, it provided an opportunity to become smarter, faster, and stronger every time something happened.
Perspective.
That's huge.
That's perspective.
I didn't know you were homeless.
From 1997 to 2001, a lot of people who knew me didn't know I was homeless. One of my best friends since I was like 15 told me the other day he didn't know I was homeless or that I was on the autism spectrum because the way my mom puts it is she didn't let me give it that much attention to where it became an excuse for failure.
Right. Perspective.
Like again, there are deaf people that know how to sing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. There's people with no hands or arms that can drive cars and draw and play piano
and coach football teams.
So exactly. So it's there's, if I can say this, there is a guy with one leg who I'm sure has won an ass kicking contest by this point, just in reality. So, even when it seems like you're at a disadvantage, depending on your mindset, you can pretty much overcome anything.
I believe it.
I believe it, and I hope that
there's evidence.
And it is evidence.
It is.
I mean, what Gary Brackett has done is evidence, overcoming the personal loss of losing family, and still being able to find a way to stay focused on what was in front of him, and then eventually, after he retires from the NFL, be able to open up a business based on his experiences and his passions that he had growing up. And I think if anyone is listening right now that is going through something, I hope that you find some inspiration in what we're talking about. I mean, we have Malcolm in front of us, and we know that he has overcome some things, and he's, been able to open 11 businesses, and he's flew here for this podcast. I mean, it's just amazing.
Probably my greatest lesson, and this is from my next book that's coming out. It's volume 2 of Purposeful Economics, The Science of Purpose. One of the greatest lessons I've learned just from life, and it's reinforced by his story, is don't focus so much on your own ability as you do your availability to what God has for you. You know what I mean?
Brother,
say it one more time.
I'm writing that down.
Say it one more time.
Don't focus so much on your ability, on your own ability, as you do your availability to God.
Wow.
Because whatever you want to call the source, the creator, God, the universe, it is always conspiring for itself. So when you take the path of least resistance and be one with it, like just become a part, that's how you meet opportunities. You know, instead of being skeptical every time something seems like it sounds too good, even if it is, you can discern what part of that you can take and run with.
Right. That's where you're taking those lemons and making lemonade.
Exactly.
All of that. Because I would say this. Not all of our real estate endeavors ended well. We've had break-even, property deals. But we had gained so much information and experience from that.
So that we don't have to feel that pain again.
And most importantly, we did the next deal. And the next deal.
To the point that people now see our deals on TV. So it's like I just imagine what if we would have given up instead of saying, you know what, this hurts temporarily, but we're going to learn and we'll never forget and apply it to the next deal that we do. I mean, and that's what we've done. And now people actually get to witness that because of the social media platforms, it's podcasts, and people seeing us do it on TV.
Again, thinking like an economist, everything affects everything. If y'all had given up, think about how many people. I can think of 3 families that wouldn't have free homes. I can think of a lot of situations where people would still be living in dilapidated, rundown situations if y'all weren't out there flipping. I can think of people who wouldn't have been inspired if they hadn't seen you on TV or listened to your podcast. So the best thing about it is that you were about service and then prosperity. Because if you'd have just been about prosperity and made it about yourselves,
wow, man,
a lot of people would be without right now.
That gives me goosebumps when you said that, man.
Right. I mean, for instance, I think all of us are wearing branded T-shirts right now. For those of you who get a chance to watch this, I have a shirt that says "Dream, Plan, Execute," which is the next segment we're going into. And we created these shirts though to represent how we feel in our approach to life and how we would like to see other people have that same approach. I dream about what I want, I plan on how I'm going to get it, and then I take the action to execute that plan to make it actually happen. Yeah. He's wearing a shirt that says I'm invested.
And I mean,
that says a lot more than it reads.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and I'm not going to try to minimize the dream part. God gave us a dream to do all the real estate, to provide for the rest of our siblings and our parents, and make it bigger than what came to us from them. But it's really about that plan part. You get dreams all the time, and you just like, well, hopefully, a miracle will happen. Or you create a plan, you work your plan, and you execute that plan. Dream, plan, execute.
Right. And then, I'm invested, like you just said, it's bigger than those 3 words. I mean, I'm invested in my health, I'm invested in my wealth, I'm invested in my community, in my family, I'm invested in so many things. But if you're not invested in helping yourself so that you can then go be a service to others, then you'll never make the impact that you would want to have on this life.
Because at the end of the day, we're defined by the end result of our thought, speech, and action, nothing else. That's it. Like what you cause to happen, that's who you are. So it's like keeping that in perspective, would keep people in line, because people they respond to incentives.
Right.
If you change the incentives, you change the behavior. So the greater impact somebody's realizing that they're having, whether it be negative or positive, it will make them more aware of what they're doing, how they're investing, or wasting, or whatever it is.
Right. So let me ask you this. I want to go to our dream, plan, execute moment. So if you can just take any moment, past, present, or future, you talk about something maybe you're working on now, and tell us the dream that you have, the plan of how you're going to do it, and the execution of that. Just give us your dream, plan, execute moment.
I've had many, but one that stands out is when I decided to learn about asset protection. Because I found out, I heard somebody say something, it was an old rich guy, he said, the estate is the highest authority. And I thought about that. And then I thought about how hard it is to sue entities like Purdue, what's going on right now, the pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard to get that money out of them. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a settlement. Like, they're going to settle as to not have to give too much of their money away.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to rephrase that because I don't want to sound like Dr. Martin Luther King. I envisioned sharing what I've learned at a vast level. So I agreed to do it for free with the city of Los Angeles, which led to a contract, of course. But in doing so, I wanted to make sure that regardless, people know what I know. Like, I'm sharing about, bid for assets, whatever. I don't care about sharing resources, and because it's free, they can Google it, just like I did. It's not like I created any of this stuff, or it's like intellectual property. So the vision itself is to, this is probably going to get me in trouble, create a preschool to prosperity pipeline versus a preschool to prison pipeline.
No, I like that.
And I'm doing it through economics, entrepreneurship, and education.
Right.
Not schooling, but education.
Right.
Those three things, because let's be honest, socioeconomic inequality doesn't best serve anyone. Like, the better off we all are, the better off we all are.
Right.
There's no way around that logic. Like, iRobot, my logic is undeniable. That moment came when I was standing inside Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation, and people who are more qualified than me were listening and actually responding. And I said, well, if I could do this today, I can create an outline and take this all over the country. And not exclude anyone. You know what I mean? I don't care what community they're from, because like I said, the more money circulating, the more money circulating. The more people that know about bid for assets, the more homeless people that can be housed. Because there's actually people that are going to buy these properties and care.
Right.
So it's I had the vision and I had to learn how to do it. So I had to learn the skills myself. And then execution is duplicating myself by training other people. And
that's huge.
Right.
They gain. I get blessed for it, and everything's everything.
Now that's a dream plan execute moment right there.
Man, that was. Hey, I'm about to listen to this episode a couple times myself.
I know, man. I'm sitting right here with you.
Hey, man. All right, so let me ask you this: First thing that comes off the top of your head. This is Homecoming with the Downer Brothers. So please tell us, what does the term homecoming mean to you?
Getting my 40 acres back.
40 acres.
Rather than being a beast with no nation, quote unquote. That land that I won't even say ancestors, because it wasn't even that long ago, that my predecessors worked for, that was taken back and turned into resorts and golf courses and whatever.
Right.
I'm gonna buy it back.
Buy back your 40 acres.
Pennies on the dollar.
You don't need the mule?
No.
I think all he needs is that website where you can get those dollar lots.
Where you get those dollar lots. Okay.
All
right. So we always ask our guests, to tell us where they're from, and if they can tell us some kind of charitable organization that can help, like
something that you support.
Something that you support and it can support your hometown. Is there any organizations that can do that?
I don't really know of anything where I was born, because I never lived there. I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. I haven't spent much time there.
Okay.
But there is an organization for homeless youth called SPY, Safe Place for the Youth in Los Angeles, California.
Okay.
I support that fully, time, money, whatever, and I encourage anyone else to, because at the end of the day, kids grow up to be adults who are, they're the ones maneuvering things.
Right.
So, like I said, the better off we all are, the better off, the healthier a space children are in, the more productive they can be as adults, and not shoot up Walmarts and all that BS.
That's awesome. Can you give us the website one more time?
Safe Place for the Youth.
Safe Place for the Youth. So look up Safe Place for the Youth, and please donate and again help out the youth. All right, so we'll close it right there. We got Malcolm Adams, the economist, the entrepreneur, and the educator, and he definitely educated us, and he gave us some free games. So we're going to be looking into those dollar lots across the country, and I think we got a partnership coming. I got a feeling we're going to be doing some work coming, because if there's nothing else that we learned from this, that we learned about systems, we learned about partnerships, and we learned about helping each other and educating each other so that we can all be better. So thank you again, Malcolm, for coming down here on Homecoming with the Downer Brothers.